The Sustainable Voice, bringing you big successes from small places worldwide.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Sustainable Voice. This is Ashish. So today's episode, I got a really cool story for you. Something that actually is from a friend of mine that I've actually really looked up to for a long time. Let me take you back to September a few years back. I had gone down to Ecuador, and I've been going to Ecuador. I was there my first time when I think it was a teenager, maybe 15 or 16. It was with one of my best friend at the time, Fred. And we had gone down and been to Ecuador, the Galapagos, and Amazon, and of course, been back repeatedly since. I noticed something even when I was a kid and even growing up about Ecuador that was really unique. Everybody talks about the Galapagos, right? And it's great, right? The Galapagos Islands is, of course, a must. It's something you should talk about. Very few people actually talk about mainland Ecuador. So I started doing some digging, started looking, started doing some research, and I started talking to friends from Ecuador and Peru and Colombia, other parts. And of course, as we're talking to them, you start understanding that 25% of the country is indigenous and most of it's on mainland. So then I started asking a question as I got older, like, well, if that's the case, and all these local cultures here, and there's so much beauty in mainland Ecuador, how come nobody talks about it? Everybody just talks about the Galapagos Islands. And they said, it's a problem. It's the Galapagos gets all the attention, right? And rightfully so. It's an amazing place because it's one of a kind, right? It gets all the attention, but it's not really the right way to approach the country. So I started doing some digging more and saying, well, yeah, of course. And of course, my time in the Galapagos was just magical. And I said, yeah, I remember this. I thought it was just mind blowing how impressive it was. So I started talking about the different areas and just the avenue with which people talk about Ecuador. And I started just seeing, something funny may be happening here. If you go to Peru, you have Machu Picchu. You go to India, you have the Taj Mahal. If you go to Paris, you got to France, you got the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Every country has that one calling. In Ecuador's case, of course, it's the Galapagos. But Ecuador, I noticed, had something really unique about it. When most countries, everything works in concert, in unison, right? So, for example, you can't go to India and visit the Taj Mahal and not visit Jaipur, or visit the rest of the Golden Triangle, the rest of Rajasthan, or even other part, for that matter. You can't go to Machu Picchu and not visit Cusco and the Sacred Valley in Lima. I mean, I guess you could, but you have to go through Cusco at least. That's the thing. That's what made it really special. It was the fact that all these places worked in concert. You can go to Ecuador and you can go to the Galapagos without really going beyond Quito or Guayaquil. I said, okay, well, that's unique. You can't bypass Cusco or to get to Machu Picchu. You can't bypass Delhi. You can't bypass other places. And frankly, India is so far away. Why would you go just to Taj Mahal, whereas Ecuador is a bit closer to home, right? You go to Colombia, there really isn't one main site like that. They're all working in unison. But here you have this unspeakable giant of a destination in the Galapagos Islands that is getting all the attention. And you've got all these areas. You've got the Amazon jungle. You've got, of course, Quito. You've got Cuenca. You've got the highlands. You've got the cloud forest, and of course you've got the Galapagos Islands. So a few years back, I was back in Ecuador visiting with a friend who was somebody I want to talk about in this episode because he is one of those heroes making a big difference in a small place. And we started talking about cannibalization. Now, before you jump up and down, I'm not talking about that kind of cannibals. I'm talking about cannibalization of a destination. I noticed something. We're sitting having lunch. This gentleman owns a hotel, a couple of different places in Ecuador. One of them was in Otavalo market in the highlands. And we were sitting there just talking about this. And as we were talking about, just this notion of cannibalization, he said probably what you're thinking right now, which is, what do you mean? What do you mean by cannibalization? Well, what I mean by that is the fact that you've got a country that is competing with itself, each region competing with itself for the same customer. So somebody who goes to the Galapagos, somebody goes to Quito, right? That same person after the Galapagos Islands is now having to choose between going to just Quito, or going to just Guayaquil, or going to Quito and the highlands, or going to Guayaquil, then on to Cuenca, or going to the Amazon jungle. And each one is giving a reason to visit their part of Ecuador that conflicts with the other, right? Come to Quito because you're going to see the most historic town. It's going to be cooler than the Galapagos because it's going to be at altitude. Come to Guayaquil because you're at sea level, you're not at altitude, so you won't get sick. This colonial history as well. Come to Cuenca because this is the cultural capital, the colonial capital of Ecuador. To get here, but you can get here from Guayaquil. You don't have to go to Quito, and there's more history here. Come to the Amazon jungle because this is the heart of the Amazon in Ecuador versus other countries the Amazon transcends through. Come to the Amazon here. Don't need to go anywhere else. Just fly to Coca from Quito and just come spend time here. You start looking at yourself going, which one's right? Come to Cotopaxi, it's the highest active volcano in the world. You get here as well. You'll have everything, in a much smaller way, and that the town's going to feel smaller, and the volcano's right there, and you've got all this beautiful scenery. You stop again and go, which is right? Which way do I go? Could you imagine being a traveler visiting Ecuador and all this talk about getting there and how it's supporting the local economy and what it's doing, and just going, how do I choose where I'm going to go, right? I've only got a week. I've only got 10 days or 12 days or 9 days. I've only got a certain amount of time. I wish I can go everywhere, but there aren't enough dollars, or there isn't enough time, or both. How do I choose where I'm going to go? And it becomes one of these things where you have to wonder, like, okay, well, shouldn't there be some sort of a centralized message from a tourist board or something? But yet instead of having a centralized message, you've got different tourist boards. You've got one for Quito, you've got one for Ecuador, you've got one for this part of the country, one for that part of the country. And it seems like one isn't talking to the other. It's not their fault. It's just the nature of the beast. And then on top of that, you've got this notion of conservation in the Amazon jungle, and this notion that Ecuador is perhaps not doing enough, or doing too much, or not doing anything, or doing something, but not what the right thing. Depends who you talk to, right? And this becomes a big part of it. So I was sitting with my friend. His name is Sebastian. I was talking to him about this, saying, this doesn't make any sense. Now, mind you, this was a few years ago. This was in just basically, I would say, not even the beginning of the end. It was right in the middle of the pandemic. We're talking about this. There's no traffic coming in. And we're just sitting there talking, going, if tourism is going to rebuild, there's got to be a better way. We can't just go back to the way things were. And Sebastian is a really bright guy, right? Got his graduate degrees from the US and different parts of the country. And he's an astute business person. And he starts telling me, he says, it's who, not where. I looked at him and I said, Sebastian, is the altitude getting to you, or have you just been drinking too much of your own stuff, or are you dipping into your own inventory? What's going on? He goes, no. Well, maybe, but no. The who, not where, is an important question when it comes to Ecuador. The country should be broken up on where you visit based on who's there, not what's there. We know what the Galapagos has. We know Cotopaxi is the highest active volcano. We know what the Amazon jungle is. We know about the cathedrals and the history in Quito. We know about the colonial past in Cuenca. Beyond that though, who, not where. What does that mean? So of course I had to ask. So I said, Sebastian, you've intrigued me. Now tell me more. Now, Sebastian's somebody, him and my other friend Santiago, we're all sitting together, and I respect these guys because they've been doing this for a long time. I respect what they have to say. And so both of them start sharing this information. He's saying, imagine you were going to India. Imagine if you're going to Kenya. Imagine if you're going to Peru. And if I did show you a map showing, hey, this is the Taj Mahal, let's visit here. If I told you, hey, the Maharaja of this particular area is here. This particular villager who did this that was important for the community was here. This particular person who's famous for doing X was in this part of the country. This person who knows how to hand make pianos from scratch is in this part of the country. Would you want to go visit all of them versus seeing every temple in history? Well, yeah. I mean, at some point, I'm templed out like everybody else, but yeah, I would love to. Because what if you went to a country and you were given a list or or you were designed something saying, hey, you're going to meet this person here, this person here, this person here, this person here. And each person you meet is going to immerse you completely in their local environment, their local town, their local surroundings, based on their skill, whether it's a musician, whether it's an artisan, whether it's a chef. So whether it's through food, whether it's through music, whether it's through art, or any kind of expression for that matter. Started thinking, but well, before I could finish my sentence, Sebastian says, I'll take it a step further. Imagine if you went to Egypt and instead of telling you the pyramids are here, the Valley of the Kings is here, the Temple of Philae is here, Mount Sinai is here, the Nile River is here. Imagine if I said, hey, there's this really amazing guide, Negomar, that's based in Cairo, that knows more about the pharaohs than anybody else you could think of. Would you want to go meet him? Oh, yeah. There's this person named Farah that's actually based in a different part of Cairo that does these really cool tours at night where you're actually having dinner at local places and learning about politics and whatnot. She's really famous because she was, she's done a lot for women's rights. She's done a lot of studies in women's rights. Yeah, I want to go see her. Hey, if you go down to Luxor, there's this guy named Ahmed. Ahmed actually is from Minya and actually was able to take you through. And if we can get a little bit outdoors in Dera and whatnot, if you get to Minya, we can follow the trail of Agatha Christie as she traveled through Cairo and actually be able to meet somebody who knows where she was and get to towns that are so small. Yeah, I don't want to go there. He said, you see what just happened? He said, I didn't dissuade your interest in Egypt. Egypt takes care of itself. What I've done is broadened your horizon on what's possible to be seen there. And you sure have. That's fantastic. What else? He says, think about any destination. Just think of your own backyard. He says, what if you live in New York, you live in Chicago, you live in LA, Miami, whatever the case, Boston. And instead of saying, hey, let's go over to this side or that side, he goes, you already do this in your own home. I'm going to drive 5 miles to go here. Why are you going there for? Well, so-and-so, I'm going to go meet Joey. Joey's got this. I'm going to drive 10 miles the other direction. What for? Well, I'm going to go meet Ed. Ed's got this. I'm going to drive 50 miles. 50 miles, what for? Well, I'm going to go 50 miles because there's a guy there named Brian that actually knows how to do this. And I want to learn what he's got to do because he can help me. Huh? He goes, you're already doing this in your daily life. You just stop doing it when you're visiting a destination. Wow. You're actually not wrong. Quite accurate, as a matter of fact. Okay. Let's dig into this more. He goes, Ecuador has this problem, that every single region competes with the other for the same traveler. And he goes, it's never going to change unless something changes. And that something is a conversation that shifts to who, from where. And that conversation shifts to people, not just places. Everybody or almost everybody is going to go to the Galapagos Islands. We know that. It's before and after. Because we have tried telling people for decades, come to mainland Ecuador. There's enough indigenous population here and bird life and whatnot here. You have to come see this here and come see the culture here. It's a hit or miss as to who actually does it and doesn't do it. But if I told somebody, hey, after you're done with the Galapagos, come over to Quito. I want you to meet Ali. Ali's a musician that I heard you like playing guitar. Ali has learned from his family how to make these guitars by hand. And it's from a ukulele to a guitar. And he can pretty much teach you how to play, but he just strings these things up in a way that is just unforgettable. Hey, I heard you guys had, you have an issue with sleeping and whatnot, dream catchers, but the pre-Incas actually, they actually did this. All these pre-Incan cultures that came in Ecuador, they actually did make these sort of type of dream catchers. And I know somebody, it's a husband and wife team that make these by hand. And we should go over there and talk to them because they'll be able to give you one that's really special and different. Hey, I know you like metal. If you come into this part of Ecuador, there's a gentleman there that turned an oil drum, an old used oil drum in San Marcos into a record player, using the old horn from the phono players, from the 40s and 50s, using the old French horn that comes up, and the vinyl player and everything else, and using all the sound, I guess, the sound reflection and just the sound that's actually bouncing off all that, the steel drum, and using that as your amplifier as the music comes out. Wow. He goes, if I said that to you, wouldn't you want to come to mainland? I said, yes. And he says, not just you, anybody else. So it's who, not where. I said, so what are you doing about it? He goes, well, that's the tricky part. We've tried the old adage of, hey, tourist board, tell travelers come to Quito or to come to this part or come to Cuenca because we have all this history. Mixed bag, hit or miss. But I actually have a different system. You see, these people who he calls micro entrepreneurs, these are very talented individuals that have gone through a rough lot in life, and when I say rough lot in life, it's one that I heard some of these stories, and it makes us grateful for what we have. And if we do complain about something, maybe it's not as consequential as we think it is in the grand scheme of things. So he basically is telling me about this system where, these people have gone through a rough lot in life, and substance abuse is an issue, and leaving the community, abandoning their bloodline is an issue. Other forms of not just perversion of life, but just a way to actually limit how they live their life and limit how they protect their way of life. In order to avoid all of that, it's actually bringing their craft to the forefront, bringing it to the forefront in terms of actually talking about, micro entrepreneurs, helping them write a business plan to go around that, because most of these people have not been through advanced levels of school. They know they want to show their craft, but they don't know how to maintain that or to sustain it once it gets going. So you end up with these whole collection of fly by night or fly in the pants type people that will be here one day, gone the next. And our idea is to give them staying power by showing them how to protect what they're doing. Sounds intriguing. Sounds really intriguing. This is the definition of sustainability, isn't it? He goes, yeah, this is one of the major pillars. When we talk about people and protecting a way of life and culture and whatnot, that's what this is. You are literally giving purpose where purpose is lost. You are giving a megaphone to somebody who has no voice. So it's what's needed. He says, you actually start going through and you're looking at these things. And as you look at these things, you can see that there's something really special occurring here, in terms of just, the way micro entrepreneurs work. And he goes, that's what these are. They are micro entrepreneurs. If we give them little business plans and we give them code of conduct books and we actually teach them how to run a business, because that's what they want. Their art form is a way of doing business. The way they're able to teach people their way of life and their special skill, their gift. That's a business. They are individual. They are micro entrepreneurs by design. And they have no seat at the tourism table because the tourism decisions are being made for the masses. And these guys have no voice. Putting something along those lines, that's huge. That's something that is absolutely amazing in terms of just what's possible, right? And I think that's something we forget quite often. So I started asking Sebastian. I said, Sebastian, what does that mean? He goes, look, all of my hotels are tied in with micro entrepreneurs. They are involved with experiences that my guests have at our hotels. They're involved with the experiences that they have where they're going out and actually meeting people like Ali and actually talking to them and having these guys come to the hotel to perform and do different things. He goes, this is what it's about. He goes, we're giving them a purpose, but before we give them a purpose, we're telling them, look, here is a business model canvas. Let's put this together and have you go through this business model. Let's have you go through and show you how to run a successful business. These are the things that you want to achieve. These are the goals of your business. This is what you want to do. You want to provide for your family. You want to be able to have a staying power. You want to be able to have all these things and be able to protect your way of life instead of having to just sacrifice it in order to make a living. Yes. Okay. Well, in addition to that is a code of conducts. a code of conduct document that says, okay, I'm not going to abuse any kind of substance. I'm going to give back to my community. I'm going to do all these different things. Something that holds me accountable as an ME to what I'm supposed to be doing. Taking a community member, writing that person a business plan, and then holding them accountable to the way they achieve their business plan to make sure that they are ethical in everything that they do. I said, Sebastian, my friend, you've not just created a way to teach people, you've literally defined the very meaning of the word teach a man to fish and he'll never go hungry for the rest of his life. You're teaching these people how to fish. You're giving them the power to run their own business by giving them material that you probably spent an obscene amount of money learning at a university they have never heard of. He said, exactly. He said, my gift to them and my give back to them is not a check. My give back to them is the fact that I am bestowing on them all the education that I spent a fortune learning in America, and I am doing it for free, and that I am showing them how to maintain it. I am constantly by their side, showing them different ways of doing things, being able to teach them how to be good, astute, responsible business people. Wow. What do you say to that? What can you say to that? Start talking about these things. I'm telling Ali, Sebastian, I'm using Ali as an example because I met him. I said, Sebastian, tell me Ali's story. He tells me where Ali came from, what his background was, and the hardship he had. And at some point he was, asking for money and whatnot. And Sebastian said something that was very key. He said, sustainability doesn't mean you're a charity. Sustainability doesn't mean you're an endless ATM to just keep giving money. That's dependence, not sustainability. He goes, sustainability is a true partnership. And he said, I've had a couple of these micro entrepreneurs come and ask me for money. And I would get upset with them and say, I've helped you all this time and you have the nerve to still come and ask for money, thinking that it's free. It doesn't grow on trees. I have obligations as well, but I'm taking time out to set you up so we can grow. He said it's not something that's intuitive. It's a difficult thing to do, right? Because you want to actually reach in and give the money. You want to do this, but in this particular case, it's the worst thing you could do because you just give them the money they're asking for. Today, it's this amount. Tomorrow, it's that amount. And now you're creating a sense of dependence among them as well, where, okay, maybe I don't have to focus as hard on my business as a micro entrepreneur. Maybe I don't have to do this because I've got a free ATM here. It's going to do it for me because I got this here. All of a sudden, then corruption enters, everything opens. Because if you draw the line there, and that's part of the code of conduct that, you can't come asking for money. This is not a charity organization. This is not an ATM. This is not one of these where you just here's a check, go use it however you want to. We feel sorry for you. This isn't one of those, one of those programs that's about saving the world because we have a savior complex. This isn't about that. This is about taking people who want to do better and saying, here are the tools. Here's what we're going to do, right? Here's how we're going to put this together. And I think this is really key, is that it's not just in one location in Ecuador, because you have this person in Quito, this person in the Highlands, this person in Cuenca. We already have them. This person coming soon in Guayaquil. We'll have people in the Galapagos at some point. Some are already there. We'll find people in the Amazon because we're starting to see them come to the surface as well. And all of a sudden, a trip to Ecuador is no longer, hey, let's go visit the Galapagos. It's, hey, let's go visit Ali in Quito to learn about music. Let's go visit this person to learn about steel work in Cuenca. Let's go to Guayaquil to learn about organic farming. Let's go to Galapagos to learn about how, how animals attract or how land is preserved, organic farming in that form. Let's go to the Amazon to learn specifically about how this land is protected from multinational corporations becoming in and taking it, or how the people are protecting, what they're doing to preserve their way of life, how to keep these kids away from mining mercury and into actually doing something meaningful. I stopped. I said, Sebastian, are you keeping track of how many people you have? He said, I don't, I have track of the micro entrepreneurs that come through our system, but it's not, I don't look at it as a number. I don't look at it as a number to hang on my wall and say, these are all the people that have been involved. I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away. I said, Sebastian, there has to be a bigger cause for this. There has to be a name for this. He said, yes. He goes, that's why you're here having lunch with me. It's called ME Ecuador. And this is where it starts. So Sebastian is the local hero. He's the one that represents what this podcast is about. He runs a successful business, but he's taking time out of that business to say, let me employ these people. Not let me give them money to go live their life. Let me employ these people to go and make a difference in their life and bring their gift to the forefront. Teach them how to be responsible in what they do. Teach them how to be ethical, how to be accountable, and run a business the right way. That's pretty impressive, isn't it? That's the beauty of finding success in small places like this. That's what micro entrepreneur is about. And it's one thing can apply to any country. And that's actually Sebastian's business. Today it's Ecuador. Tomorrow it could be Peru or Colombia or Guatemala or somewhere else. But his vision is to expand it to other parts of the world and to take it to other countries and say, look, this is the model. Could you imagine if he was talking to hotels in other parts of the world, say in India and whatnot, and say, what are you doing? You could do this really, really well if you work through here. That's pretty impressive, don't you think? That's worth noting, don't you think? It's worth asking questions about. The fact that you're building a whole country's tourism model and rebuilding it around people, not places. That's pretty impressive. I think that that's something we should all look at. And I'm so glad that Sebastian is involved in this because he's the right guy for the job. He's imparting education for free. I think that's pretty impressive. Thanks so much for listening. Till next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to The Sustainable Voice. If you have a success story of your own, please reach out and share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.